Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us César Mouriño, who's the President and CEO of LifeAnswers Financial Group. César, welcome to the program.
Well, Mike, thank you for having me on, and it's a great time to be on this show with you, and I appreciate everything you're doing for us.
You're welcome, and I always love when I start, doing the introductions and I see the name of someone chose for a company, and it's so many times it is so telling. So I want to hear a little bit of your background and your entrepreneurial journey, but let's start with the LifeAnswers Financial Group, because boy, that just tells me that you've got some teaching and education. You don't just tell people here's what you need to do and do it. You help them discover those answers about life as it relates to financial. So how did you come up with the name of LifeAnswers Financial Group?
Well, Mike, I was looking for a company. I used to belong to a different IMO, but I was looking for a company that I can bring expertise to. And it isn't like you just said, it isn't just selling life insurance or annuities. Is how can I bring the professionalism in that, my team and I can come in and educate you on different financial vehicles that are out there that you're probably not aware of, give you the information you need to make a sound decision, and now you're empowered with that knowledge and can put it to work for yourself. And so I was looking for a company or a name that I can say, okay, what would attract? And LifeAnswers is what we came together with as one word, LifeAnswers, to be able to say, we have the answers for your life, for your future.
I love that. And there's I'm a big proponent of personal development and, goal setting. And it's so many times you hear these life coaches and they're saying, there's some main categories in your life. There's your financial life. There's your spiritual life. There's your physical life. So in relationships, there's all of these areas. And if you are coaching and teaching and educating and coming alongside of your clients with answers related to life, and it just really is a neat way that I find that people in financial services really tend to be like a coach, cheerleader, life coach, because it's like, you know what, money can do a lot of great things and money can really be a big roadblock. So I love how you take that teaching approach.
Thank you. And, one of the things was I have seen that financial illiteracy is very big in the United States, and there's only like 23 states that you have to go through a financial literacy course to graduate from high school.
Wow.
And to me, it was very important that, we need to get that out more and more. People need to learn. It isn't just putting the money in the piggy bank and then you go to the bank, all you learn is about 401ks, 403bs, and that's the extent of your, financial education. It's, even my son the other day was saying, they've never taught us how to use a checkbook, how to balance an account, and this is what I'm seeing is the lack of knowledge that's out there. And you and I were not shown that when we went to school, right?
You're exactly right. And in fact, my son is 17, and just the other day he was telling us about an assignment in his. He's a senior in high school, and he was talking about, they're doing this budgeting class, and they need to create this budget. And I'm like, wow, that's really not the norm, like you were just saying. So I think that is so vital, and there's so many levels of literacy. There's just the basic literacy, and then there's the high level things like what we'll talk about today. Of many times people have misconceptions about money and investing in retirement, and I want to get into those, but give us a quick little snapshot into your background. What led you into financial services and the passion to teach people about how to properly manage money so that they're ready for retirement?
Well, I tell you, I was born and raised in New York City, went through everything, came out of the city, went in the military, came out of the military, was retired from the military, and then went into law enforcement. But I started learning about finances. And so I got involved in the insurance industry as I was in the sheriff's office and kept going from there. Once I retired, then I pursued that wisdom because I needed to make sure that I was set for the future. but also started realizing that, you know what, other people need this too. And so I started bringing that wisdom to other families. As we talk about entrepreneurs, I just started another small business, which grew from 16 of us to 350. But then when the economy went down in 2008, well, I lost the business. Well, that started showing me that, hey, you're at least on the right path because you've set your future up and you have money to live on. But how about anybody else? And I realized that, you know what, I really got to start bringing this out to families because, you know what, they're going to get affected. And we saw this, in 2020 with COVID. How many people lost so much money in the stock market?
Yeah.
So it was, how can I bring this education on is just get back into the industry because that's what I loved. And I remember my accountant said to me when I had to close the company, so what are you going to do now? And I says, well, I love photography, but I love financial services. She says, tell me about it. And this is a little old lady that was like 78 years old. And when I told her about what we did in financial services, she goes, oh, my God, that's a landmine. You got a beautiful product there. You need to talk to people about what you do.
Yeah. And then take pictures on the weekend for fun, but you need to change people's lives this way.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where I started up from there. Then we started the LifeAnswers Financial Group, and we just started growing. And it's just bringing that education that people do need. Because when I talk about, getting out of debt, using your own money, people don't, what? I can do what? Yeah, I'm not talking about refinance. I'm talking get you out of there and set up for a tax-free retirement. And that's what people like to hear.
Yeah, so let's jump into that because I think that is so huge that, one thing is one of the life lessons that you learned is, life took a crazy turn and I had to now pivot away from being the business owner. So what am I going to do? Well, let's go help other people change their lives and be prepared. Not many people were as prepared as you were, and maybe you felt a little financial hit, but you were prepared. And now if you can tell people, look, if and when the next thing comes up, because you know what? You mentioned the crash of 2007 and 8. I lived through that and it wasn't fun. And then you mentioned COVID. Right. And you know what? When we get through or past or whatever that's going to be there's going to be the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Who knows what it's going to be? Is it going to be just financial? Is it going to be pandemic related? Who knows? But one thing is for sure. You can never just take a deep breath and go, okay, life is good. Nothing's going to change. So the only thing constant is change. So when now you're talking to people that you care about, and maybe even people you don't know, but you just care about helping them because they were referred to you or they're in your community, what is one of the first steps that you are taking to help them understand you need to be prepared for retirement? Because retirement might feel like a long way away for some people, but you better start sooner than later.
And that's so true. It's interesting when a lot of times I'll speak with millennials, and I had to correct my language because if you talk to millennials about retirement, they have a whole bunch of life ahead of them, and they got time for that. So one of the things we do is we first sit down and we'll say, let's show you, what this is all about. We're going to take you through our process of our company and show you everything that's available. What's going on in America now? What's going on in the industry? What's going on in American lives? And educate them on what they're going through. And as a matter of fact, when we talk about that, we're talking about them because it's us all. And so they now assimilate themselves as, you're talking about me. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. And so they see it. Now we talk about the financial solutions that they're not aware of and how they can impact their lives and set them up for the good retirement, for the actual retirement that our parents told us, go get a good education, get a good job, and then retire. How many people do we know that actually retire with a good income?
Well, here's something else. You're talking about millennials, and that's on the younger side of things. And then now there's other people that maybe are on the edge of getting ready to retire. But one thing is for sure, I feel like the concept, if someone were to, if you were to say, okay, we've got 5 millennials in the room and 5 pre-retirees that are looking at retiring really, really soon. I want each one of you to pull out a piece of paper and write down the definition of retirement. What does that look like to you? I think it would be really interesting to read those definitions because I think the mindset typically from decades past is you stop working, you sit on the beach or play golf or travel, and there's retirement. Yeah. Well, you know what? these days, whether you're younger or older, I feel like people are retiring, air quotes, but thinking about just shifting gears and going, you know what? I don't want to stop working. I want to work 2 days a week and travel, but I want to do some whatever, volunteering, coaching, whatever it is. And so now that adds such a huge layer into what you need to serve your clients with on educating them, because you better have some financial plans in place so that you can have that happen the right way. Is that something you've experienced working with your clients?
Yes, yes. And like you said, when we talk to both groups, millennials start to see it then when you explain it. They start saying, wow, I mean, one of the things I always say to millennials, hey, do you remember when you were 12, you wanted to be what? And they look at me like, cross-eyed as 13, right?
Yeah,
oh,
right.
Yeah. Then 15, then 18, then 21. After that, you stop counting, right? Yeah. I says, what I want to show you is 12 years old was what the other day? You're now, what, 25? You see how fast time flies?
Yes.
Then they realize, oh, yeah, I do have to do something for retirement because, man, 13 years just went right by. And so they start capturing that,
Wow, yeah.
So you're right on with that. Is giving that education piece to the point that they start understanding, I got to do something for my future, and especially if you're young and you start doing something now. Oh, my goodness, when you get to that retirement time, then, like you said, hey, yeah, if I want to retire and goof off part of the week or do photography as a business sideline, I can do that and enjoy myself.
You have choices.
Or if you want to go back to work, you have that choice of staying at your job if that's what you like.
I think that's a huge thing is there are many times I will go to Walmart and I will see the Walmart greeters, and they are typically in their, and this is just a cliche, just an example, but typically, let's just pick in their 70s. And you have to wonder, are they there because they have to? And many a times they did not make good financial decisions, and they've got to work 15, 20 hours a week, and that's got to feel like pressure. Well, I would like to be the Walmart greeter and have as much money as I need to have and just be there to hang out and have a good time. So you need to be thinking about planning for whatever your retirement picture is going to look like, but starting now. And I love those tables and examples of if you start saving this much per month or year at this age, look at what you'll have. But if you start saving a little sooner, it just compounds exponentially. So let's talk about plugging up some holes in the financial bucket. And one of the holes that I would suspect is huge is taxes. Because if you are earned money, you're paying taxes. And if you put money in some financial vehicle, you're going to have tax to deal with. So talk a little bit about tax efficient ways to save money for the future.
Well, you have different vehicles out there, and the typical ones people hear, well, I'm gonna do an IRA or I'm gonna do a Roth, and the Roth is good because it's a tax-free vehicle because you're already paid taxes on that money. But is there other things, and that's the important factor is people are not aware that there's other vehicles. There's life insurance vehicles now. You have the Index Universal Life. You got the whole lives, which have been forever around. And people don't realize that life insurance has changed. It is no longer, I used to hear no longer your grandfather's insurance or the old phrase, you have to die to use it. No, life insurance has changed. And back in the early 90s, they came up with, the Index Universal Life that, you can have stock market-like returns. But guess what? Now all of a sudden you put this money away, and when you go to use it, whether it's to buy something or for your future, you have money that's tax-free money coming out to you. Not only that, but some of these companies have living benefits. Well, what does that mean? That means you don't have to die to use it. You see, that's and huge. People are not aware.
So give us an example of how would someone use living benefits within a life insurance policy?
Well, that's a great question, and I have a great answer for you because I have a client that went through this. I had a client that started an Index Universal Life, and about a year into the program, she ends up with cancer. Well, about 8 of the companies that we deal with have what's called living benefits. That means that if you end up with a chronic illness, which means you can't perform 2 out of the 6 daily living activities, or if you have a critical, which means you end up with a heart attack, stroke, cancer, renal failure, so on and so forth. And it can go anywhere from 8 factors up to 16 factors, depending on the insurance company, they will pay out. In other words, you have a life insurance policy that says, hey, listen, you ended up with an illness that you cannot perform, or you had a heart attack, guess what? We're going to pay you.
Wow.
Whether you want a full payout or partial, it's up to you. So you have that option that, hey, listen, my client ended up with the cancer, and, we got everything approved. The insurance company came back and they said, look, she didn't know about this. We're paying her out. She got paid out over $120,000. Another client got paid over $700,000. They did not have to die to use it.
And is that that early payout, like you said, the living benefit, is that tied to the amount of cash that accumulated in there, or is that tied to the kind of the benefit value of the policy?
The benefit value of the policy.
That's really interesting to know, because I'm just a guy listening to people talk, and I hear about life insurance and cash value and things like that. And I hear that, when you accumulate cash in a life insurance policy, there's all these benefits that I want to talk more about. But the main thing that sticks in my mind is, if you need to access the cash, you can, and you maybe take a loan out against it. But you're saying this is a new way to think about it. You don't need to die to get the benefit. You can have something like this, and if you qualify, now the insurance plan is paying you while you're still alive, and it's based on the death benefit value. That's a really big light bulb moment for a lot of people that they probably didn't realize.
Well, I tell you, I had one time a company say to me, well, why do you want to offer that product with living benefits? I says, because it helps the client. As a matter of fact, this is more like a deal breaker because of the fact that when clients see, hey, I got a living benefit with it, you mean I don't have to die?
Yeah.
Right. And I remember when I launched the last IMO I was with into Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, a lot of the clients had cancer policies. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. How about if you end up with a heart attack? Is that cancer policy going to take care of it? They go, no. I said, would you like one that covers 16 different illnesses, including cancer? And they're like, really? I said, yeah. But not only that, you'll have a savings program in the policy, and God forbid something happens to you, guess what? Now your family's taken care of. So you got 3 things working for you versus the one.
Well, let's talk about, that's an excellent example, and it makes me now think of the next point, because you were saying, there's some cash value and you can use it for many things. What would happen if now you've got kids approaching college age? Can you, and now, of course, you don't have the cancer or the heart attack that, to take advantage of the, death benefit early, but now you've paid into this contract, life insurance contract for, several years. What can you do with the funds in that to help out with college?
Well, like you said earlier, you can borrow from it and start applying that to the college funds for your children. Another factor is that people don't realize, and this is where I'm getting a lot of clients now, where they'll set one up for their children, or the grandparents will set one up for their children, because of the fact that they see there's a savings program there that, a lot of times the children end up being so smart that they don't need,
right.
They get all these grants. So
you put money in a 529 and you might not need it because they got a scholarship or a grant, and now you've got to deal with the 529 plan.
Right. And then if you want money from that 529 to buy a car, for example, or to pay for an apartment for them to live in, whoops, you're going to get the money back minus everything you've made.
And taxes and penalties and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. Here in the insurance one, the money's there. It's yours. You do whatever you want with it. As a matter of fact, I have clients that say, hey, I need to borrow or I need some money, they don't ask, hey, what do you need it for? It's your money.
And the other thing is, when you say borrow and loan, you got to go borrow somewhere for that college tuition or that car or whatever you're doing, and you're paying some loan repayment to the bank, right? So now if you're borrowing from your own self, you're acting like your own bank, and then those payments are replenishing your own asset. And to me, that's really an interesting point.
It's very, very true. I remember years ago, my mom at one time was telling us, you should borrow from yourself and pay yourself back. What is she talking about?
How do you do that?
The industry. Yeah. And then I'm going, oh my God, you become your own banker.
Yeah. Now,
you know,
it takes some time. You got to do it the right way. You got to understand. You got to have some help. But this is a really big revelation to a lot of people that you don't need to go to the bank and borrow whatever 10, 15, 20,000 for that car, because if you have that properly structured life insurance policy, you got it sitting right there. Borrow from yourself at way better rates, and whatever interest that it is plopping right back into your own investment cash value into the life insurance policy. I think that is a really big, huge aha. And also, now we were talking also about, retirement and, death benefit. Let's think about the other aspect of like legacy. What about people that when they come down to, okay, I'm going to need to get my will and transferring assets to my family and my kids, what benefits does a life insurance policy give someone when you're trying to pass your savings on to your family?
I tell you, it's beautiful. I mean, I love the questions you're asking because I've had three legacies that I've established. I had two gentlemen early age in their lives pass away, and both of them were like 38, 39. Wow. But the money they left in the policies, we were able to come in and restructure the children. So now the children are going to have money for college. If they don't need that money, when they go to retire, they just leave it sit.
Yep. Yeah.
Each one is going to be pulling $200,000 to $300,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay. So it's tax-free money that they have working for them.
And that's a combination of both the accumulated that's a combination of the accumulated cash value that built up and the death benefit. So there's two things working.
Correct. So now all of a sudden they have money that your father that passed away, which is unforeseen circumstance, had left a legacy, had promoted, had thought ahead of time that if something happens to me, I want to make sure you're taken care of. I want to make sure you have the money that you need for schooling or for whatever the scenario might be. And this is what we've seen. It just works so well that that legacy, like you said, is there. It's already established, so you can leave it for your family, and it's tax-free money.
Wow. It makes me think.
But now it's tax-free.
Right. Like for instance, I've talked to on my podcast here, interviewed attorneys that focus on like probate and transferring assets. And I understand that every state has some really difficult and different probate. And when someone is trying to pass along assets and there's tax, it's a mess and you got to get attorneys involved. Well, with one of the biggest gifts that someone can give their family is this legacy of having things all set up, and then you don't have to go through all the probate stuff. Now, again, talk to your attorney and legal advisor, but if you can transfer quicker and easier and tax-free, boy, you avoid all kinds of red tape, right?
Exactly. It's interesting because right now, last night I got a client in the same scenario where someone passed away and left a policy to him. So they're calling me, hey, what do I do now? Where do I go from here? And so we're working the same scenario as we're talking about today. And that's ironic that, it just happened yesterday and we're discussing it today.
Yeah, it's like all these scenarios, it's like they're not pie in the sky. They happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you least expect it, and then all of a sudden you start hearing, hey, well, my financial professional took care of me this way, and I've gotten a lot of referrals because people are saying, wow, okay, this person passed away, but you set the family up for a great future. Yes.
Yeah, tell me more. Yeah, exactly. It makes me think too, like you hear these stories of, that business mogul, they don't pay any taxes and they shield all, and you're thinking, offshore, and I don't have enough money to do that. Well, this sure sounds to me like one of the vehicles that those top, executives out there you hear about are able to do some of those pay so little in taxes, right? I mean, it's something that becomes you can act like the big boys.
And it is, you're right. We're seeing that this is one of the vehicles that the big boys use.
Yeah.
You talk to someone that is $1 million earner or something like that, you're going to find out that they have a policy like this because they see that, hey, in the future, okay, maybe I'm making 6-7% return on this thing or a little more, but in the future, you know what? I've set it up. Something happens to me, the family's taken care of it. If not, I got money for retirement.
Yeah.
There's and if you're $1 million earner, you definitely want to look for something that's going to be tax free, right?
Yep. Well, I know that I've got a personal friend of mine that used to run a financial services company, and they did these high-level stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all these things. And I remember him saying one day that there are some really high-level strategic financial things that people can do, but you can only participate if you make over whatever, some huge amount of money, right? So here's the little guy going, wow, I'd like to have, but I can't. But yet here's this strategy right here we're talking about of properly using life insurance to do all of these benefits, and anyone can participate in it. And I also have heard this, and correct me if I'm wrong, César, investing in and setting up a good life insurance policy, whatever it, permanent, index, whatever all those choices are. But this is not anything new. It's been around for hundreds of years. And in fact, many of the big banks and corporations put their money into life insurance contracts.
Exactly. You're correct. Well, who is the FDIC? It's an insurance company. They reinsure the money that's in the bank.
Yep. Yeah.
See, and people are not aware of that. Well, you know what? Since the industry has changed so much, like you said, whole life policy has been around for ages. Well, why not look at what are they doing? What do they have to offer? Well, wait a minute. You said the tax-free? Yeah. I can use it for what? For retirement, for getting out of debt, whatever you want. It's there. It's your money.
Yeah.
You're putting it to work for you instead of putting it to work for somebody else. Isn't it interesting where you put your money in the stock market, you're paying for somebody to monitor it, but when the market goes on, you lose money. It's your fault, not theirs. But you pay somebody to watch it, right?
and let's make one final point, because you mentioned something that the word risk comes to my mind. So here's now someone going, okay, all this sounds great, César, but okay, where's the other shoe going to drop? Where's the risk? How much risk am I putting my money by putting it into this?
Well, there is no risk putting your money into one of these policies because, first of all, the one phrase I use a lot is zero's your hero. So it runs, depending on the company you're utilizing, whether it's an index universal life or a whole life policy, it's running either on the growth of the company itself, which would be a whole life, or if it's index policy, it's running with the stock market, but your money's not in it. So you don't lose any money whatsoever. That's the beauty about it. So you're either going to make 4, 5, 6% rate of return or 9 to 10% rate of return because you're running with the market, but not in it.
And some people might go, oh, but my money's in the market, and 1 year I made 15%. Well, yeah, but the next year you might have lost 28%. And in this kind of vehicle, you have no chance of loss. So there's the floor, and you have the chance of upside, but you just might not have the, infinite upside that other people would have. But give me no risk, and I'm in all day long. That's a great point.
That's why I call it, zero's your hero, because you'll never lose any money.
Love it. Well, I think that's a great spot to drop the microphone and go, guess what? We have talked about a lot of great strategies here. And if someone is interested in learning a little bit more about how you could help them get some life answers on their pre-retirement, retirement years, what's the best way that they can reach out and connect with you, César?
Well, they can reach me on my website, and they can fill out a card on there. It's at LifeAnswers -FG as for financialgroup.com. So LifeAnswers at FG-FG.com, or they can reach me at 813-967-1328, and we'll set up an appointment and show you everything the way it's supposed to be. We'll take you through our partnerships. We'll take you through how we work and how we can help you better save for your future and get well established.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Same here, Mike. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.